Hello, welcome to another session of the Change Exchange. And my guest today, Nic Haralambous. What shall I call you? A serial tech entrepreneur. That's a nice way of putting it.
I've started saying I'm a serial failure because I've got a lot of failures behind my name.
But yeah, you have, at the age of, if I may ask, 33, you've sold 2 tech companies, and yes. So do not believe him for 1 minute. Nic, when you were 10, you were coding.
Yeah.
And were you always into computers?
No. Weirdly, at the age of 10, my parents decided it was a good time to get a computer for the house and an internet line. I mean, that's 23 years ago. They decided to get an internet line on dial-up. For our younger viewers, they won't remember what that noise sounds like. No. But that noise was a prominent part of my life. It was for me and my brother. And within a couple of weeks, it had become my computer. I was emailing 1 or 2 people that I knew in the world who had email. And I decided to dig into the world of online, and there were chat rooms back then, very rudimentary chat rooms, kind of like WhatsApp, but that was the way we spoke online. It was called IRC, M-I-R-C. So
did you know anyone else around you, your immediate circle of mates, who were into this? No,
not until I got to high school did I meet the first person that I knew who was also trying to hack computers, trying to build websites. So everything I learned was through IRC, chatting to other people around the world, IRC? Finding chat rooms, internet relay chat. Literally WhatsApp, but 23 years ago. It's really crazy how it all comes around. Yeah. But yeah, you'd find a room, you'd ask people, I want to build a website, how do I do that? And they would send you a link to their website and then show you how to do that, and you do it, and so on and so on and so forth.
And this was at the age of 14, 15?
This was between the ages of 10 and 13. And at that time, I got into high school at 12 and met a guy in my school who was doing the same, and the 2 of us got together and we tried to get into other people's computers. And at one point, we actually did Telnet, that was the program that was existing back then, into someone else's computer, and because we were such nice people, we didn't know what to do, so we just were like, this is a bad idea, and we left, and that was the end of my hacking days. And we just built websites from then.
But then at university you studied journalism and politics
And philosophy.
What was the idea?
So I can't tell you why exactly, but from the age of about 7 or 8, I wanted to be a war correspondent. I must have seen a movie or something that sparked off this need to go into a war zone and report on the crime. So I studied journalism, and even from school, I focused on English, got my writing and my prose down well so that I could get access to Rhodes. And so I studied at Rhodes University, journalism, politics, and philosophy.
So you saw the computer stuff as a hobby?
Yeah, it was a passion more than anything else. But getting into university, and I mean, I did computer literacy at high school level and learned coding in a bit more of a formalized way. And listen,
you were lucky to find a school that taught that early.
Absolutely, it's luck. I mean, I don't know if you have, but heard about Bill Gates. He happened to be at a university where the only computer that was programmable happened to be in existence because his parents happened to lecture there. It's all about luck. So we were lucky enough to be at a school, my brother and I, where coding was a thing. So I learned how to code, and then went to university, and then figured out that the message was changing. We were studying print, but I had my own blog at the age of 18, and I was publishing to the world at 18 and 19 at university level. This new thing called WordPress had come out in my second year of university. And I mean, I've been on WordPress for as long as it's been around. So I started to realize that newspapers weren't really a thing, and at that time we were one of the few countries in the world where newspaper sales were increasing. The rest of the world, it was decreasing. So the trend indicated that web is where it's at, and that was actually one of my first businesses, was a student news aggregator called Student Wire that failed dismally because students want to drink and they don't want to spend money on news, so that didn't work.
But then when you started as a journalist, you started at the Financial Mail, right?
My internship was at 702. Rhodes makes you do a formal job at a real news organization. And I went where all the Greeks were, at 702 with Katie Kalapodis and Aki Anastasiou. And my first job was making coffee at 702, actually.
Did you like radio?
I loved radio, but didn't get onto radio because they don't let interns on radio. Now I actually get more radio airtime with the likes of Bruce Whitfield and his show than I ever did as a journalist. But yeah, I loved radio. I think it's a very cool medium that actually might survive the tech trend.
But you started in print, but on the digital side already.
Yes.
But you didn't find the bosses and the managers very receptive at that point. No one was really buying into your view.
Yeah.
That what they were doing was on its way out.
Yeah, I was a little bit ahead of my time at the Times Media Group, which back then was John Nic and then became Avusa. I worked at Financial Mail in their campus magazine section, trying to shift them into a more online focused medium, and it wasn't very easy. It's not where their money came from. It's like what's Vodacom trying to be WhatsApp. They couldn't see beyond their nose because WhatsApp is now eating their revenue. So it's a very difficult thing to show people the future when their present is the money and it's there.
But you were with the FM and the Mail and Guardian, and then the Mail and Guardian, and then with Vodacom, all quite for short stints.
Yes.
Is it, when you think of young people, do you think it's something one should do to be in different jobs, to try different things?
Yes. I think it's indicative of people who are searching for the thing. And I think younger generations are searching for the thing, the motivating factor. I don't think that our generation, and I mean, I'm talking as if I'm in my 20s, I'm not anymore, but I don't think that generation is looking for a 50-year career at one job. I think they're looking to build a vocation. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. And I think that the truth is I was trying to find my entrepreneurial leap. And while I was at all these jobs, I was starting businesses on the side and selling them and running them and failing and doing those things. And this was just a means for me to grow and learn by someone else's business. So at Mail and Guardian, I learned about mobile, and that was what I did there. At Vodacom, I learned about social networking and scale and building tech, and working with my business partner, who would soon be my business partner. We learned how to build things at rapid speed. So I was learning lessons that I then applied to my own businesses. And I think that's what I would advise people to do, is learn lessons. But listen, you don't get good at something by job hopping. And I didn't get good at any of those jobs. I was becoming good at being an entrepreneur. So that's why I job hopped.
And then you started, was it MoTribe?
It was MoTribe, yeah.
Was that that we would call now an app that you designed, or what was it exactly?
Interestingly, we built it as an app, but a web-based application, because when we started MoTribe in 2009, the iPhone hadn't actually launched yet, or it had just launched. It was relatively new, I lie. And so smartphones hadn't come to Africa, and we were all still on feature phones, and we built a platform to help other people build social networks for themselves. So you could build your own little mini social network for your family, or for your soccer team, or for your school. And it's kind of before anything really gained traction here, like Facebook or LinkedIn. We were still very young in those moves. I mean,
it happened quickly.
Oh man, and it doesn't feel quick, but Facebook is a 12-year-old business. 12 years ago, I was in my early 20s. Like, this happens quickly. And I don't know who said it, but things happen slowly and then quickly. So Facebook creeps up on you, and then all of a sudden they've got 3 billion users, which now is just astounding. We wouldn't have thought that back then. The iPhone is turning 10 now. Like, that's just astounding. Yes. And when we were building for Africa, smartphones weren't a thing, touchscreens weren't a thing. It was all about apps that are little, data saving. We didn't see that data was going to become cheap. So yeah, we built a social network builder.
You also, was that the first time that you worked in a partnership with Vincent Meyer?
Yes.
And what was that like, as opposed to I'm doing this?
So it wasn't the very first partner I'd ever had. It was the first serious business I'd started with a partner. I'd had partners before. One of my early businesses with 2 other partners, we actually raised 250,000 Rand in private funding, and 3 days later gave it back to the guy. We're like, we don't know what we're doing. Just take this money back before we spend it. And we dissolved that business, shut down, and moved on, which was a good lesson in not blowing other people's money. Working with Vincent was interesting because he had been my lecturer at Rhodes in new media, and I didn't even take his course at that time. He was just one of the people who helped me build StudentWire, and that was 6 years before we started MoTribe. Then he moved on, I moved on, and we joined again at Mail and Guardian, where he was my boss. And then we both moved to Vodacom, and he was my boss there. So we then left Vodacom, and the interesting thing in that partnership was the dynamic between him being my boss and us then being equals. And that was the interesting thing we had to figure out.
And?
We didn't. We struggled through that. There is a lot to learn in your first very serious venture-backed business, and we had raised a lot of money from venture capital firm here in South Africa, in Cape Town actually specifically. And when you're playing with millions of rands of other people's money, you're operating on a different level. Tensions are high, stakes are high. So unless you're quite mature, and I wasn't mature at that age, you struggle with that conflict.
You were bought out by Mixit, am I right?
Yes, we sold the business to Mixit.
But you didn't like the idea?
I did not want to sell. I was a young and ignorant, naive 26-year-old, and I wanted to build, and my thing was about building. In hindsight, it was definitely the best option for the business. And I think it took an older Vincent and my investors to kind of see that. And I believe that we could have just plowed through it, but the truth is sometimes you need to know when to cut your losses and sell a business, make some money, and then recoup and regroup and grow and do something else.
And then the next thing you started was, what's it called? Forefront Africa.
It was a consulting firm.
A consulting firm at the age of 12 and a half.
26. So I had acquired through MoTribe some very interesting skills that were in demand at the time and in short supply. And the skill was engaging with mobile network operators in African countries. And through MoTribe, we had expanded our platform to Nigeria. We built one of the largest social networks at the time in Nigeria for Guinness. Guinness is one of the largest beers in the world, and in Nigeria, it is their largest beer. And they also sponsor, at the time, they sponsored Premier League football, which was the largest sport. So we built them a social network and got nearly 2 million users in the space of a few months. So we then had to engage with MTN, and in Ghana we did the same, and in Kenya we did the same. So I had this very unique skill of being able to talk to mobile network operators, and lots of people were looking to get into the operators. So I partnered with a lady who had a similar skill set, and we started gathering clients who would fly us into those countries. We would negotiate deals with the operators, and then we'd fly back.
How did you experience the meeting other parts of Africa for the first time? Because in my life, it was such an interesting and mind-boggling sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really interesting to step out of Europe, which is Cape Town.
Yes.
Cape Town is not an African place. Yeah. It is not deep, dark, interesting Africa. It's European, Western, white South Africa. So going into Lagos, over and above everywhere else, is just astounding. I've never seen that many people in a very focused place before. We think we've got poverty here. There are people there who build shacks on lakes because there is no more land to build shacks on. That is just riveting to see. Yet they're all innovative, they're all happy, they're all entrepreneurial, they all have cell phones, they all work for the airtime. And that part of the African experience is just astounding. It's so interesting, and there's so many people who are just happy with the innovation that they can do in their community. And yeah, it was a really eye-opening experience.
Was there also something humbling to it?
Yeah,
absolutely. We are not the only people who know something in Africa.
Especially working in Nigeria, it's a very South African way of approaching business. Is we think we are the African experts. We think we're the entrance into Africa. And in the last 5 years, that has become Nigeria, and that has become Kenya. Kenya's tech scene screeches ahead of ours at the moment. So we go in there to MTN in Nigeria, and they just completely block you until you worn them down and built up a rapport. So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience engaging with them as a South African doing business. They see themselves as this behemoth and they are. They projected forward in the next 20 years, Nigeria is a global power. So yeah, it's interesting.
And did you have to change in that interaction?
Absolutely. So there's a push and pull. I learned a lot of negotiating skills from engaging with mobile networks, firstly. And secondly, South African to other African entrepreneurs and business people. You learn to speak less and listen more. I think we have a tendency to just speak. So yeah, I learned how to listen. One of the things I learned was in a negotiation, whoever speaks first loses. So I let other people talk now. And when you're in your 20s, you also feel you have the need to be the loudest person in the room. And I learned that that's just wrong. The softest person usually wins. Yeah.
And then you sold that business to Imperial Holdings. Is that how it goes in the tech sphere? That you build up something and there's someone big out there and you make a bit of money out of that sale and you move on and you start something else?
I would say that that's how it goes if you aren't overly passionate about what you're doing. So I became good at launching, building and selling. And that's mainly because I don't think I was really passionate about the things I was building and I hadn't found my niche. I think that people who build stuff they love would rather hold on to it and grow it, not for selfish reasons, but because you believe you can do it the best. So yeah, at that time it was about build, sell, move on to the next thing and find what I wanted to do. And so yeah, I sold to Imperial Logistics, and that was more of a, we want to partner with Imperial. Okay, actually I don't like this as a thing, so I just want to get out. And we sold the business and I got out and my partner stayed and I moved on to the next thing.
And the next thing was socks.
The next thing was socks.
And you must please get a shot of the socks. Why?
The Forefront Africa thing was really short. It was about a year and a half. So I was still kind of reeling and had started Nic Harry, which was then Nic Socks. In between Motribe and Forefront, I started this in the middle of those two. And the plan was really simple. South Africans have got a problem with success. We are not humble people and not pleasant people by nature when it comes to business. We like to point and jeer at people. So if someone has a Ferrari and they've just bought it and you know them, in Greek you call it the mati, the evil eye. You curse them for having it instead of going, well done, how did you do that? In America, the culture is, let me learn from you. You're a millionaire, cool, teach me. So I wanted to do something that helped people understand that it was possible, because when we sold Motribe, people pointed fingers at us and said, oh, but you raised venture capital. It was easy. You had money. And the truth is, when you raise venture capital, it becomes harder. You're in debt, you have multiples to hit, you have very clear tranches that you need to achieve, and it was hard. So I decided to build a business with 5,000 Rand in a 6-week period, and if 30 days had arrived at the end of that and we hadn't turned a profit, to shut down the business and start again. And the reason I chose 5,000 Rand was the average South African earns between 3,500 and 5,500 Rand a month. So most people can save 500 Rand over a 10-month to 12-month period and have 30,000 Rand, or have 5,000 Rand, have some amount of money. So 10 months, 500 Rand a month, and at the end of that, you got 5,000 Rand. So I'd been wearing a brand of socks that was not that great, but very fun and funky. And I wanted to do something that was light, so socks you can ship really easily, that had no sizing, so we didn't want to do returns, and that we could do locally. So I started Googling, and my partner, who's now my business partner, she found a factory in Cape Town. We drove out to the factory and said, we'd like to make socks. And they were like, no, we can't make those socks. No one will buy those socks. So we said to them, but that's not your job. You just make the socks, we'll sell the socks.
We will buy the socks.
We'll buy them. Yeah. So we didn't even buy them. We got them to make us a sample, and we took 3 designs. I built a website. We partnered with, back then was CityMob, now it's called Superbalist, and we launched a sale. And the 5,000 Rand within 10 days had become 30,000 Rand. We sold 500 pairs in our first 10 days, and we rolled the business from there. And
now you've also branched out into physical shops.
Yes.
How is that different? How does it feel different?
Wow, it's so different. So we built the business, my partner and I, Jen, as an e-commerce company for the first 3 years. Then about 2.5 years in, we raised funding. It's kind of what I know how to do. So we found an investor who gave us funding to expand the business, to grow our product range, to push into new markets and areas. And I was walking down in Cape Town streets and there was a vacant store, and my friend happened to know the owner of the building, and we sat down and he came for coffee and I said, I'll take it. And I mean, the rent was so cheap that it was a no-brainer. And that was the beginning of our first store. So
in some ways you allow for serendipity.
Absolutely.
For something just somewhere to happen.
Absolutely.
If it's not too much of a gamble.
No, I think the higher the risk, the more I'm inclined to go for it.
No, you gave back the 250,000.
Yes, that was when I was 20. And I didn't understand the idea of the risk. So I'm willing to risk high risk when I understand the scale of the risk that I'm taking. At that point, we had no business plan. We had no idea what we were building. We had no technology.
Who gave you 250,000?
I'm a really good salesperson. And that's another problem that we have, is I'm really good at selling my board and an idea, or my investors to give me more money, and the execution is the part that is risky. So yeah, at the moment, the risks are pretty big. And with physical retail, the risks are really big. High capital expenses, high human capital that's involved. You need to train staff, retain staff. You need more stock. Whereas an e-commerce website, you launch your website, it stays up. Your expenses are maybe 5 or 10 grand a month. Now you're leaning towards massive overheads, rentals of 50 to 60 grand a month per store. It's a real big thing. And I kind of didn't really expect it to be as big as that, naive retailer that I am. So the differences are vast. Higher overheads, lots of new metrics to learn, like turnover per square meter, how much money you make per square meter you are renting. That's not a thing in e-commerce, because you're not renting any space. So I had to learn all these new metrics, and we scaled our team from 4 people to 22 in 18 months, which isn't that big in the grand scheme of other businesses, but we opened a store every 3.5 months, which put a lot of unnecessary strain on myself and the business. But you know, it's what you do. It's how you do it.
And emotionally, the responsibility for other people's livelihood.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think that concerns me less than the emotional responsibility to myself and the people around me for my sanity. And I think that's a really big one. I've said for years that entrepreneurs are very broken people to do what you have to do.
Why?
Because it's not pleasant. Entrepreneurialism at the moment is made to be this very pleasant thing. Oh, start your own business, it's the future. Yeah, but it's also really hard. I work 7 days a week, 15 to 20 hours a day, because I have to, and also because it's what I want. And therein is the broken. The broken is that most people don't want to work 7 days a week, 15 hours a day on something they love, on anything for that matter. They want their salary and they want it to be someone else's problem. I choose to make the salary payments my problem. I choose to make the businesses my problem. And I think that you need to be a little bit broken to keep going back for that punishment, because it's punishment. It's not easy. Alternatively, I could go into a consulting firm and be making a crap load of money and smile and live for my weekends, but I choose not to do that. And that part, the people I know who are entrepreneurs that keep going back are a little bit broken, because we should logically stop and go and get a well-paying job and go on holiday more frequently, but we choose not to. So yeah, the emotional thing, I recently have started seeing a psychologist, and I think it's an important part that entrepreneurs miss. Sports people have multiple coaches for their running and jumping and power and strength and mental fitness, and entrepreneurs just choose to do it alone. And it's a very hard thing to be an isolated entrepreneur. So seeing a psychologist, for me, I call him my mental coach. So it helps me keep my emotions in check, because at the end of the day, I just sell fun socks. It's not life or death stuff. And the staff I employ are capable of getting jobs elsewhere. I don't employ minimum wage people. We employ educated, intelligent, engaged humans who want to build a vision with me. And if you don't, then you leave and you find someone else's vision. So you
don't take on the responsibility of their lives.
Yeah, I bring A players. And A players don't struggle to find work.
Just about the psychologist, I always think that it makes such sense to hire a sounding board.
Absolutely.
People think that it indicates weakness or whatever, but it's not that. It's a support system.
For years, I thought that it was a sign of weakness, and my statement, and I'm sure that many people think this and say this, no one knows me better than me. But that's just not true. You can't see the wood from the trees, especially when you are manic depressive and bipolar and up and down, and one day you've made the biggest deal of your life and the next day you're being roughed out of your business. You can't see those things when they're happening. And that's literally what it's like as an entrepreneur. One day you're signing a $1 million deal, the next day you're closing down a store. And I literally mean one day to the next. I'm not talking about an elongated period of time. So we've gone from opening 5 or 6 stores to closing 2 in the space of 2 years. It's the way it goes. And that's why I say we're a little bit broken to keep going back for the punishment, and we need help from professionals when we continue to do this.
But you've also said that you've had to kind of lighten up, to not take everything so seriously, and to know that a failure is also a lesson, and you move on from that. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the choice had to be made for my own sanity to realize that there are more important things in the world. And having worked with my partner, so Jen and I have been together for 12 years, and we actually worked together for 4 years in this business and built this business together. And she's been a really good sounding board to say to me, but maybe we shouldn't work tonight. There's going to be email tomorrow. And if I send 20 emails today, I'm going to get 20 responses tomorrow. So why do them at 10 at night? It doesn't make a difference. So we walk our dogs, we read our books, we wake up early, we go to bed early, and it's the life we choose to lead, because I don't believe in a balanced life. I believe in an integrated life. My job is part of my life. And I can't separate the two, and I won't, because it's how I choose to live. So yeah, that's just how we choose to be. That you can't take everything seriously, because ultimately this business will succeed or fail. And I'm going to start another one after that. Even if this succeeds, I'm probably going to start another one anyways. So just do the best you can do.
So tell me about Jennifer. How did you meet? How did your paths cross?
We met in Grahamstown. We met when we were 20. We both studied politics. We were in the same class. She attended the class and I did not. So I didn't know we were in the same class. And we met through a mutual friend.
You see, one can miss out if you don't attend class.
2 years I missed out. I didn't know literally for 3 years we were in the same class. And we met in third year, and we've been together ever since.
Why? What draws you together?
Why? Because no one else will have me. No, she's
but surely
always,
she has choices.
Yeah, she has many choices. I don't know why she stays with me. We've always complemented each other really well. She's one of the few people who stands up to me and calls my crap, and doesn't let me just steamroll over her. One of her major roles in our business is to say no to me, because she's the only person who is not like engaged in my peripheral force field. So yeah, I think from my side, I stay with her because she engages me in a very different way to most people that I've ever met.
And how do you manage being business partners as well as life partners?
All sincerely, with great difficulty. It is something we work really hard at, but it's made our relationship better, and it's an interesting thing working with your partner. So one of the things we practice at Nic Harry is called radical candor. It's extreme honesty, and Jen and I practice that at home too. So when I'm irritated with her, I tell her, and when she's irritated with me, she tells me. It's harder than it should be sometimes, but on the whole, it makes us a more transparent couple, and it makes us a better partnership. So if I'm irritated with something she's done at work, we choose to bring it up at work so that it doesn't flow over into our home life, and vice versa.
It can also, it sounds like carte blanche to be extremely rude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an expose. Our entire life is an expose, and we're just overly honest with each other.
Do you have a formula? Do you sit down and say, what I like about you today was X, Y, Z. What I did not like was...
Yeah, we have to practice that. The honesty applies both ways. So you can't just be mean honest, you can be polite honest as well. But something we have that's similar to that is we have an AGM. So every year we have an annual meeting where we discuss if we're happy in our location, in our home, in our business, with our dogs, living in Joburg, living in Cape Town, and if anything changes, we align our desires. And if it's too fundamental, then we have a very big problem. So far it hasn't been.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And where have you decided to live?
In Cape Town. For now, Cape Town. The reason initially was because our venture capital firm for MoTribe was here in Cape Town, and they wanted us in Cape Town, so I moved. Jane stayed in Joburg and then joined me later. Right now, we're really happy here. Cape Town has got the best of everything. We've got except water, and even that, it's not a big deal. We have very short showers, and we make it work. But look, both of us have traveled extensively, and we don't want to live in Cape Town forever, but it's where we want to build our business right now.
Why don't you want to live there forever?
Because the world is too small.
For variety's sake.
Yeah, variety's sake. The world is too small now, and it's so easily accessible. Why stay in one city forever? I mean, I've got friends and family who've never left their town, who've been in Pretoria forever or Joburg forever, and that scares me more than anything else. I think, having been to about 20 countries already, I think there's so much of the world to see that why just stay in one place? I don't have a better answer than that.
So do you have a dream of somewhere else that you want to be? Someday?
I do. It's very cliched, sadly. New York. I've traveled there a few times, and it's the only other city I can think of living as opposed to living in Cape Town. But the plan in the short term is to make Cape Town home and travel 6 months of the year in other cities to open Nic Harry and other places.
And will you have a base there, or will you just
Airbnb?
Rent when you when you get there?
Airbnb. With technology, the world is so easy. We can Airbnb and Uber everywhere. So that's the plan, is to...
But what about the dogs?
That's why we're waiting. Dogs die. Yeah, no more dogs. We're going to wait out these dogs. But we've genuinely thought moving dogs is not that hard. You put them on a plane and fly them over, and then they wait for not even 2 months anymore. It's like 10 days. And then your dog's in another city.
So what makes a space your space? For even if it's just for 6 months of time?
It's such a great question. So we move a lot. In the 8 years I've been in Cape Town, I've moved 9 times. And every time we move, we get rid of stuff. So we kind of practice a minimalist lifestyle to an extent. We have stuff, but not that much stuff. We have 1 couch because we can both fit on 1 couch. We have a 4-seater dining room table because we go out when we have 5 friends. We just scale down. So we're not married to stuff. We're married to each other, not literally, we're not actually married, but the idea of 2 people being in a place for me makes it home more than anything else. I don't really like stuff. I think experiences are more important than stuff. So yeah.
Thank you so much for visiting with us.
It's an absolute
all of
pleasure.
The very, very best, and I hope the socks sell.
Me too.
Lots of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go well. Until the next time then, you must keep joining us. Bye-bye.